Well, thank you, Al, for having me, and thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. This has been a project in the works for a number of years. My partners, Jim Backer and Steve Valenziano. Steve's here. Jim, unfortunately, had a conflict. Have been involved with this property really dating back to 2004, 2005. The property was acquired in 2005, and we submitted development applications to the city of Santa Clarita in 2008 formally. And we've been in this room and at Canyon Country Advisory Committee a number of times over the years now, dating back to when we were going through the entitlement process with the city, and even after the entitlement process with the city. And it's been a great audience to kind of bounce things off of as we were going through the process. And for those of you who were involved, we spent a number of years meeting with the community, and those meetings were with one or two people in a lunch setting, all the way to meeting in people's houses in Sand Canyon, attending the Fair Oaks Homeowners Association meetings, attending these meetings, and really working with the community on making project changes to make the project a little bit better for everybody. So I'll quickly go through a little update on where we're at and then take some questions. So this is looking back at what is the Vista Canyon site, and for those that are not familiar with it, we're really sandwiched between Fair Oaks Ranch and Sand Canyon. So the majority of the project backs up to Fair Oaks Ranch and the Metrolink railroad tracks. And Metrolink is an important component of the project. The Via Princesa Metrolink station will be relocated to this location. It brings it roughly 2 miles more to the east. And is more directly adjacent to the users of Metrolink. As far as the project, again, we submitted back in 2008. It was roughly a 3-year entitlement process, and that is the process where we obtain our permits from the city of Santa Clarita to develop the property. It was entitled in May of 2011. There was some litigation that occurred afterwards that has since been resolved. And during that time frame after 2011 to today, we worked through the various agency permits that you need to develop a property. So it's not necessarily just the city that you go through the process with. The property was originally in the county of Los Angeles. There was an annexation associated with it, so the property was annexed into the city of Santa Clarita. We also had to obtain permits from the Department of Fish and Game, which is now Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps of Engineers, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and others. So it's a very elaborate process that we go through, and we've been working through that process to a point now where we're ready to develop the property. The property, again, is a transit-oriented development, mixed-use development. The site itself is roughly 185 acres. There's about 150,000 square feet of retail, which is developed in a Main Street orientation. So very similar to, let's say, what you see in Valencia Town Center from the mall to McBean Parkway, where you have 2 floors of office above, ground floor retail, restaurants, and shops. It's a big job center. We have roughly 650,000 square feet of jobs. The Metrolink station really is the driver for that. We've got a hotel or hotels up to 200 rooms, and then roughly 1,100 residential units on the property. This is the land plan, and so very quickly going from, I guess what would be your left to right. On the left is basically Lost Canyon Road, which goes to Fair Oaks Ranch, and then there is Jake's Way. They both meet there at a roundabout on what would be the western edge of the site. Lost Canyon Road then extends along what would be the, I guess, the northwesterly portion of the property to a new bridge which crosses the Santa Clara River and then goes underneath an existing undercrossing at State Route 14 and connects back to Soledad Canyon Road. The development on the west side of the project is primarily attached residential product, a lot of it being apartments. And then we've got really our town center area in the center of the project. The area that's kind of highlighted in pink at the bottom is the Metrolink station as well as the city bus transfer station. The city has already obtained funding for the bus transfer station to construct that, and they're working on funding as it relates to the Metrolink station. And then as you move easterly, we have additional for sale residential. Those are homes, condos, townhomes. There is a 10-acre community park that we will be building and then turning over to the city of Santa Clarita. And then far to the west, something that I did miss, kind of in the blue or dark blue at the western edge, is a water reclamation plant. We are building a water reclamation plant which will actually provide a total supply that exceeds the project's demand. About a third of the water would be utilized on site in landscaped areas. 2/3 of the water would be utilized by Keswick Lake Water Agency offsite. So what they would do is convert areas that are presently being irrigated with potable water to recycled water. And as I mentioned, that plant would be turned over to the city of Santa Clarita, who would then own and operate the plant. This is the transit location. Forgot about these slides, I should have waited. This is a little rendering of what would be the bus transfer station, the parking structure for the Metrolink station. This is our phase 1, which really begins on the west end of the project. This is looking at a rendering of what would be that phase 1 area back towards the Metrolink station. This is our phase 2, which is the east end of the project, includes the park, and also would include the bridge over the Santa Clara River. And this is some examples of what we're looking at as far as housing in that area. This is really a blow-up of the Oak Park, is what we call it. There are a number of mature oak trees that are located on the park site. The idea is the park, roughly about 5 acres of it would be more active in nature, about 5 acres would be more passive in nature. The project also includes over 4 miles of trails. So we have 2 large extensions of the Santa Clara River Trail on both sides of the river. We also have what we call a loop trail, which really goes along the back side of the property and accesses the town center. The Sand Canyon community was pretty emphatic about, 1, having a lot of trails, but 2, having the ability to really have a multi-purpose trail, soft trail that they could use for equestrian purposes to access the town center and other areas. So this is our main street, retail with the office and our job center, smack dab in the middle of the site. And there's the job center more closely. And as far as development plan, we're looking to start grading of the project in May of this year. We are already out with our phase 1 land bid package, and that is we are going to sell portions of the project to builders, whether it be for sale home builders or apartment builders. There are portions of the project that we'll actually develop as well, both residential and commercial. Development of phase 1 will occur really between Q2 of this year, May of this year, all the way through the end of next year. That includes the water reclamation plant. You won't have any homeowners out there or occupants out there really until probably the Q1 of 2017. At the same time, we're building really our first commercial building and also a parking structure for the town center. The idea is to have those online about the same time we have occupants. Then we move through what would be our phase 2 area. That will develop really almost in the same time frame, 2015 through 2016. And then again, we get to home construction and ultimately occupants there, and that again is probably early 2017 all the way through the end of 2018. The park would come online then. The transit station would really come online as the project is being developed. First the bus transfer station, then ultimately the Metrolink platform. And then finally, the town center area, similar to Valencia Town Center, will take roughly 5 years to build out. And that will be the commercial areas, and that will build as we're building the residential. As I pointed out earlier, I think one of the big benefits of Vista Canyon is job creation. There are up to 4,000 permanent jobs that are going to be created really in our corporate campus and professional office campus. And we're already out there marketing the site and working with prospective office tenants. And the idea is we have some advantages up here. One is the reverse commute. That is, people are not driving into the valley. We're creating jobs out here, and it's an opportunity to drive up here. We've got great schools. We've always had great schools. Our housing is more affordable as to West LA or the San Fernando Valley. It's a lower cost of doing business. And so really what's been missing out here, at least on the east side, there is some office development. On the west side is really great office space, and that's what we're really trying to capitalize on to create those jobs. This is a rendering looking down at our main street and really our first building. And the terminus of our main street is the Metrolink station. It's a plaza and then the Metrolink station. Again, designed to be very pedestrian friendly, ground floor retail, restaurants and shops. And I think going through the process, that's one thing we heard from the community over and over again was we don't want to travel to the west side of town. We really want to have a place to go here where we can hang out, where we have nice shopping, we have nice restaurants, etc. This is kind of a close-up of what would be our commercial phase one. As I mentioned, you've got the first office, retail building, the parking structure that would go with that. And then finally, this is a rendering of our plaza and the last slide. And again, thanks for having us tonight. And I'm here to answer any questions you have. Thanks. I got the lights in my eyes, so I can see hands.
I have a question. What impact will the bullet train have on the Vista Canyon development?
You know, none of the alignments go through Vista Canyon at this stage. I should go back and say that the one tunnel alignment goes underneath Vista Canyon. The surface alignment is directly to the south of Vista Canyon. So if that surface alignment was chosen, certainly that's going to have impacts. It's not taking out our property, but it would have noise, vibration, impacts associated with that. I think everything we've kind of heard from the high-speed rail folks is likely if it does go through Santa Clarita, it will be a tunnel option, which has very minimal impacts on us. Next one.
My question I missed, did you say that you were going to be building a school?
No, we have a mitigation agreement with Sulphur Springs that requires us to basically ante up the vertical construction costs for a school in Spring Canyon, which is a development that's approved on the east side of, really the east side of the Santa Clarita Valley. And what Sulphur is planning to do then is roughly half of the kids are going, that are going to Sulphur Springs right now are coming from areas north of State Route 14. And that is they would realign the schools north of State Route 14 where they become more neighborhood schools. And then Sulphur would go back to being more of a neighborhood school with Vista Canyon and Sand Canyon supporting its population.
What about junior high school?
Junior high school, both junior and senior with Hart. We aren't building a new school there, but we do have a mitigation agreement that we basically are paying money to Hart for school facilities. Next one. Go ahead.
I'm curious about one thing. You're talking about a lot of jobs there, and I'm looking at the type of things going in. And to me, I see a lot of minimum wage jobs. Are you making accommodations to house or to have affordable housing for the people that are going to work these minimum wage jobs? Or are you expecting them to come in and leave when they're done working?
Well, out of our 950,000 square feet of commercial space, roughly 650,000 square feet of that is professional office. So it's not retail or restaurants. So the vast majority is professional office. Hopefully that answers your question. I think on the retail shops or restaurant shops, certainly there's a rental component to the project, which is going to be more affordable as compared to the for sale component that people are buying. But again, most of our jobs being created on site are professional office jobs.
Hi. With regards to the getting into that area, you mentioned Lost Canyon Road as one of the ways to get into that area?
We have 4 ways in and out of that project site.
Okay, is Lost Canyon the one where that little dentist office is? Okay.
That's one of them. There's 3 Lost Canyons.
Okay.
There's sure. This is good enough. Feel like a lounge singer. All right, this is Lost Canyon right now that comes out of Fair Oaks Ranch. It's a 6-lane roadway. It's striped for 4. It ends with a bridge over the railroad tracks. We extend that down into the project site there. This is Jake's Way at this point here, so these two then connect. Lost Canyon goes here. This is the Lost Canyon you're referring to. This gets changed to Vista Canyon Road, so we eliminate one of our Lost Canyon roads, and that goes back to Soledad Canyon. And then the other Lost Canyon Road is over here, and this Lost Canyon comes in really as a two-lane collector roadway in front of the park here, and then kind of meanders through the project. When we were going through the entitlement process, Sand Canyon wanted to make sure that this didn't become really a cut-through from Lost over to Sand Canyon at this point. And so what we did with our project design is really make this a very difficult meandering roadway. So you may try to cut through it once, but you're not going to do it multiple times to try to discourage traffic going that way. The bulk of our vehicle traffic is going to go south here and here on Lost Canyon and Jake's Way.
Because one of the things I'm kind of wondering of how much extra traffic it's going to add onto Soledad Canyon Road.
Oh, we certainly, I mean, at the end of the day, any project's going to add traffic. I mean, I'm not going to say here and it's not.
Right.
The interesting thing that the traffic analysis showed was about 2/3 of the commercial trips, and the commercial trips are the vast majority of trips being generated by the project, are replacement trips. So those trips are trips that are occurring in the valley, but let's say they're going from Canyon Country over to the mall in Valencia. You know, now what's happening, or to job centers, maybe it's the industrial center, maybe it's the commerce center. Now what's happening is those trips, maybe you're staying a little bit closer and going to Vista.
Okay, because one of the things I was wondering is to mitigate some of that traffic, would it be, because I think it would be possible to do this, because there's space available, is if they could build on and off ramps right onto that 14 freeway from that, where that goes underneath that bridge.
You know, that was something that came up early on in the process, and actually there is not enough spacing per Caltrans guidelines to do that between what would be the Villa Princesa area and then Sand Canyon. You know, the project, one, from a traffic standpoint didn't require it, but that did come up, and Caltrans was consulted, and the distances just didn't work. It was too close to Sand Canyon primarily. So that's, I mean, that's about the best response I could give you. What I can say is there are extensive mitigation measures, traffic mitigation measures that this project has to do as it builds out over time. Those include intersection improvements, those include new signals. We are also the first project, I think, in the Valley that committed to a mainline fee mitigation deal with Caltrans. That's a little less than $1 million that we're writing a check to Caltrans on. Someone over here. Apologize, the lights are a little tough.
On that Lost Canyon Road that goes in front of Sulphur Springs School, what are you doing about the traffic as it connects to the project itself?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, the idea is to try to minimize traffic there. And the goal is maybe the only traffic that's being generated out of the project going in that direction is the Sand Canyon folks coming in, or some of our residential folks on what would be the east side of the project going out, including the park area. There are some traffic calming things that are occurring on Lost Canyon Road. It starts at the Lost Sand Canyon Road intersection where a single lane roundabout's going. That was the city selection that was made back in 2011 out of 4 alternatives to try to fix that intersection. Then we're doing some improvements along Lost Canyon Road, and then there is a roundabout again at La Vida and what would be the project site. And La Vida is that closest residential neighborhood to Vista Canyon. So the idea is to really try to slow things down there in front of the school.
The key word, though, is try.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it'll be an improvement over what's there today. I think the intersection will improve dramatically. That's what the traffic analysis said. And I think the goal there is really to try to slow folks down. I think going back to what I said, making that more of a neighborhood school is going to help too. A lot of those car trips are coming from north of the 14 freeway.
That's not entirely true.
It's 50%.
An awful lot of transient people that live in the valley, I mean work in the valley, that live up here, that drop their kids off at that school and several of the others in the district.
Probably Pinecrest or at Sulphur?
Sulphur Springs, Mitchell,
Okay.
Pine Tree, all of them.
I think we're doing the best we can to try to help the situation. Sure. So this is Levita, the neighborhood I was talking about right here. Go ahead.
So what's the vision for the banks of the river, and what would be the inundation if we had 100-year rain in there?
What we're doing is we're doing buried bank stabilization, and that's something that's been utilized on the west side of the valley, and that is basically it's a hard liner that is put in and then buried with topsoil and revegetated. Part of that whole process is to put those banks way outside of the active channel. Our river corridor there is over 800 feet wide. We also design the project to meet what is called the county QCAP. And that's a much more conservative design elevation than the FEMA 100-year. It actually, up in this area, is about a 2,000-year event. So we well exceed the FEMA 100-year requirements as far as bank stabilization goes. So none of the property is going to be in a FEMA flood hazard zone when it's all built. Yeah. Go ahead.
When your build-out is complete, what are your percentages of single-family homes?
You know, tough to say. I mean, because we're a transit-oriented development, it's difficult for me to try to put a number on it. I mean, I think the vast majority of homes will be attached. They will not be detached, but I think we probably will see a little bit of detached in what would be the planning area 3 or phase 2. What we're showing there is roughly about 80. But somebody could come in, we're not home builders. So when we sell to a home builder can come in and say, you know what, I'd rather do more detached product, and I'd rather do more single family. It tends to depend on the market at the time, and it could end up, that whole planning area could end up being single family. Or condos.
That's kind of distressing in that we don't know what amount of people you're going to be putting in there. You're telling me you want to make a development. You want to make a development and you can't tell me how many homes are going to be there?
No, it's
Single
1,100 units total. We cannot exceed that.
1,100 units, but you're talking more like it's going to be high density versus single family homes?
Oh, it could be all of the above, high density and single family homes. But it's a transit oriented development, which is compact and more high density.
Wow. I can't believe that our city just said you can go ahead and build this thing without telling us exactly what the homes are going to be like.
They gave us.
Is that what transient, whatever you keep saying, means?
It's a transit-oriented development. So the idea is you want it to be a little bit higher density than suburban areas. You have transit to take advantage of there. So it makes it more affordable.
Tell me what the advantage of that is?
Well, I think the advantage of it, I mean, the way we've looked at the project is really we're marketing to what we call the bookends. And that is, you know, the kids that are out of college, the kids that are in the area but can't afford to buy a single-family home that now can afford to buy a townhome or a condo, and folks that move down. That don't want the single-family home anymore, and they want, you know, smaller square footage, and that's the way we've kind of designed the community.
Okay, I have one other concern, the job situation.
Uh-huh.
I kind of tend to agree with the gentleman who said that you're going to be creating jobs that are more minimum wage jobs. I know you're saying you're going to be creating some professional office space, but it's not one of those build it and they will come kind of things. We have lots and lots of office space that's totally unoccupied.
I think the difference is...
We have a whole development up by Target that's majority of it is
well,
unoccupied.
a lot of that's retail and it's big box, and it's not what we're trying to do here.
Well, it's retail that's unoccupied.
It's unoccupied, and I will get you.
Well,
I will
do
give
you
you
have
that.
some anchor stores? Do you have some?
Sure. The idea is we
who's
have
com-
a flea market, and what's been talked about in the past has been a Trader Joe's. I don't know if it's going to be Trader Joe's.
Who's committed?
Who's committed?
Is anybody committed?
We're just starting to market the site. We just had the ability recently to start marketing the site. So, and I think as far as the office component, I think as I mentioned, what makes this work, and we are office developers, we've built in this valley. What makes this work is really the Metrolink station, because what we've seen in our developments on the west side of the valley is a lot of that employee base, you know, with some users it's up to 40%, are coming from the Antelope Valley. I mean, that's just the fact. They're driving down here and coming from the Antelope Valley. Well, if we can put
office spaces in Santa Clarita?
Well, yeah, if we can put office space there, and we've got a Metrolink station, that provides an opportunity for them to take Metrolink. There's services there.
I think we have professionals who are going out to the Antelope Valley from Santa Clarita.
Sure, there's some of that too. Go ahead.
With this influx of population into the area and all these people there, are you going to make accommodations for a sheriff's station?
You know, there's nothing on site. There were some discussions early on. I think what they're looking at is and Al, you can correct me, I know they were looking at maybe at the Via Princesa site if that went to a park or something, a community park, maybe it was there. But do they have a substation out here?
No. No, and actually, what's beneficial is not a substation, but a full station.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see what they do. But the discussion about a new sheriff station is ongoing. We had Roosevelt Johnson here a few meetings ago, and he was saying that they were looking at 2 stations, one for each side of the valley because it's getting bigger. But
were they thinking the new community center at all?
The new community center?
Whether they would do something there?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But a substation is just a station that they do paperwork.
Yeah.
And so what we really need is a full station so that we shorten time. So let me ask you one question. What happens to the Via Princesa Metrolink station after the Metrolink station moves?
Hopefully it becomes a very large community park. And, you know, we did some plans early on with the city to look at the opportunity there. Basically, you have a site right now that's got roughly 390 parking spaces and restrooms, but directly across the tracks is a property that's owned by the County of Los Angeles. It's roughly 20 acres in size. And so some of the early concepts that we prepared and provided to the city were for a large community park there. So you would have field space, and then you know the parking up front and the restrooms would be used as part of that park. So that's kind of where it's left off. We have a financial commitment. On top of building a park for the city, under their park impact fee, we also have a financial commitment that's rather sizable. So that money could be used to purchase the county property and perhaps develop an initial phase of that park.
Yeah, I was just wanted to know about the transportation component. Personally, I don't see that big a need for, I guess you're saying if you build it, they will come on the Metrolink to your facility. And I was hoping that Jim was going to be here tonight.
Is he better looking than me or something?
I'm sorry?
Is he better looking than me or something?
No, you know what? I mean, quite honestly, I'll be on, just to be honest with you, I felt like when he was the Chamber of the Commerce, president of the Chamber of Commerce, and he was endorsing the digital billboard deal, I thought that he was carrying Metro's water so that he could get the Metro station put in at this development. Because I didn't see any reason why a president of a Chamber of Commerce would ever support that terrible digital billboard deal with Metro.
Well, I think we all have different opinions on things, so I'm not going to speak for Jim, but
I
no,
came
I mean
here
the
tonight because I thought he would be here.
No, the project was approved with the Metrolink station well before the whole digital billboard thing came
Okay,
up. So.
and who pays for the Metro station?
It's really a combination of what would be probably grant money, funds that we have, and then city transit money that they collect from development projects. We're providing land, and we also have a financial commitment that far exceeds the transit impact fee that the city pays. It's roughly $3 million plus land.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.